on public access TV and PBS TV stations, and both TV satellite networks, Dish Network Channel 9415 Free Speech TV, 9410 Link TV, and on DirecTV Channel 375. And we're video and audio podcasting at democracynow.org. Our headlines are also available in Spanish for any radio station to take, as over 250 are. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Juan?
Well, U.S. officials have confirmed the Yemen-based Muslim cleric has become the first U.S. citizen added to a CIA list of targets for capture or killing. Anwar al-Awlaki is a U.S.-born cleric accused of having ties to the failed Christmas Day airline bombing and the shooting at Fort Hood. Officials said it is extremely rare, if not unprecedented, for a U.S. citizen to be approved for assassination. Earlier this year, the Director of National Intelligence, Dennis Blair, told the House Intelligence Committee U.S. forces can assassinate citizens believed to be involved in a terrorist activity against the United States. Blair said, quote, being a U.S. citizen will not spare an American from getting assassinated by military or intelligence operatives overseas if the individual is working with terrorists and planning to attack fellow Americans. He added, we don't target people for free speech. We target them for taking action that threatens Americans.
Many legal experts have questioned the legality of assassination order under U.S. and international law. We're joined here in New York by Philip Alston, the UN Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial, Summary, and Arbitrary Executions. Philip Alston is also a professor of law at New York University and co-chair of the school's Center for Human Rights and Global Justice. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Professor Alston. What about this policy targeting al-Awlaki?
Well, there's a lot we don't know about this particular case. We don't know exactly what this man is accused of, which would make a very big difference in terms of working out what his role is, whether he can be considered to be actually engaged in some sort of armed conflict with the United States, whether he's taking an active part in those hostilities. The U.S. government has merely indicated that first, he is working with a group that is said to be affiliated with al-Qaeda. Now, that raises fairly big problems already, but I'll come back to that. Secondly, is he actually taking some sort of active part in hostilities? Is he just a propaganda man, or is he, in fact, doing the planning and really someone who is in the chain of command, as it were? If the latter, if he's in the chain of command, then it becomes more feasible if we then get to the situation that we agree that we're in an armed conflict situation. That then takes us back, unfortunately, to the whole big question of what sort of conflict, what sort of war is the United States engaged in, which would then justify targeting this individual, leaving aside his nationality, at least for a moment. The administration, as we know, has come out in the last week or so with a new rationale. We've now dropped the global war on terror. That's no longer being fought. Instead, the rationale is that this is the United States acting in self-defense post 9/11. So it's invoking an international law doctrine which is designed to provide a single exception to the prohibition on the use of force. Post-World War II, the rule was a country cannot make war on another country. The exception is if it's in self-defense. Now, that's usually defined as some sort of imminent attack going on that you then are able to respond to. Clearly, that's not really happening here, and it's rather odd to invoke it for the first time some 9 years after 9/11. But even then, if we accept that the United States is involved in some sort of armed conflict, the question is, can we attack Yemen? Well, the first issue, is there a request by the government of Yemen? The US seems to imply that they will not object, and that would get around that particular dilemma. But then you come to this particular individual. The big issue there is there an armed conflict going on in Yemen in which the United States is engaged? If there is, then if he's taking part in hostilities, he would be a legitimate target. But if there's not an armed conflict, and most observers would question whether there is a sort of ongoing armed conflict, then one would need to deal with him through other means. It's not to say that the guy should be let to, do what he's doing, etc. We need to take every step that can be taken, but short of a targeted assassination, which is a really dramatic step.
But if the reports are accurate that have come out in the last few days, the president has said that he should be killed wherever he is found at any time in any situation, which would actually preclude him just being involved in an imminent attack situation on the United States.
Right. I think what worries me most is that if you take it in the way that you've put it, you then get the United States government coming up with a list of people who can be killed anywhere, anytime, simply because that determination has been made. Now, that is very questionable when there's no evidence on the table. The United States has made a number of assertions, but it hasn't tried to spell those out. But more importantly, and this gets us back in some ways to the Baghdad videotape that you showed earlier, the question is,